Jai Baba. Today, my final talk, I would like to talk about 2 episodes in our life, where in one, Baba showed us what kind of faith he wants his disciples to have in him. And the other one, that when suffering comes, it comes according to the law of karma. But if our faith in Baba is strong, he upholds us. So this is what I'm going to talk on today. Baba teaches not through preaching, but through his supreme example of a life perfectly lived. As Padam puts it, Baba enables us to discover ourselves, to understand ourselves by his presence, simply by our awareness of him. We get through him a change of heart. He has the power to transmit grace, kindle love, bestow illumination. One soon finds with Baba that whatever weaknesses we have, they have to come out. Or if one has transgressed, then that has to be brought to the surface, and Baba in his masterly, the master psychologist, in his masterly way, brings it out, shows it. Once the lesson is administered, the chapter is closed. But it is then for the disciple to take cognizance of the fact, to take cognizance of his weakness or whatever transgression he has made, and to be aware of it and to try to overcome it. And he may be sure that Baba is always there to help him. Also, the 2 incidents in our life that I am going to give you today illustrates one very important point. I can say maybe a point. It forcefully shows us what Baba has said. And Baba has said, whatever I have said must and will come to pass. My words can never be in vain. When it appears otherwise, it is due to your lack of patience, or it is due to your ignorance. Baba is the source of truth, and whatever comes out from the source has to be the truth. Sometimes it appears otherwise. As you will see in the first case, he said, he gave out, and immediately his words took effect. In the other instance, it took 8 months for it to come true. For it to happen, because it must come true, for it to happen. And sometimes it takes years. So whatever he has said must and will come to pass. But in his own time, in his own way, it will happen. We were with Baba in Guru Prasad once, when suddenly Baba turned to one of his close disciples and said, "What are you thinking?" The man must be going through very internal upheaval. for he answered, Baba, you know what I'm thinking. In a desperate way, he says, Baba, you know what I'm thinking. Baba said, yes, I know what you are thinking. You want to get married. That's what you are thinking. But how many times I have told you that if you leave the question of your marrying to me, I will get you a wife whose beauty will eclipse the beauty of the moon. But the trouble with you is that you don't have 100% faith on me. When you have 100% faith on me, the burden of my promise to you falls on my shoulder. The burden falls on my shoulder. And once the burden falls on my shoulder, no matter how much I'm engrossed in my universal work, because of this burden, I am reminded of the promise to you. And that is the 100% faith that I want you to have. Leave it to me. Let it fall on my shoulder. And I will take up whatever is to be done for you. So as Baba was explaining this beautiful discourse on faith, I was sitting there. And that very instant, the minute the discourse was finished, I again silently said to Baba, if that is so, Baba, silently, if that is so, Baba, I leave the twitching of my son's nose onto your shoulder. Now I must explain, what is this twitching of the nose? You see, our son had developed a very nasty habit of twitching his nose so badly that when he would twitch it, it would simply distort his face. Something like this, and he would keep on. And no matter how much we tried to explain it to him, we tried to coax him, we were angry with him. But no matter what happened, he kept on, and it went to such a pitch that it would be every minute and every second. And this habit had been for the last 1.5 years. And we were simply desperate, but we couldn't do anything. So when Baba explained this 100% faith, I said, Baba, if that is so, I leave the twitching of my son's nose onto your shoulder. Hardly had the thought been given expression when Baba turns to me and says, why is Merwan twitching his nose? That was a relief. I said, Baba, no. He says, why is Merwan twitching his nose? And then he was a little angry like this, and he says, what kind of parents are you that you allow him to twitch his nose? This is the second lesson. What responsibility Baba puts on the shoulders of the parents. So I said, Baba, we have tried our best. We have tried to coax him, we have been angry with him, but nothing happens. So then Baba turned to Merwan and he said, you know, one day you are going to get into trouble by this habit that you have. And to bring it home to a child, Baba then told him a story. He said, my father had a friend, and this friend had the nasty habit of twitching his eye. And one day, as my father and this friend, Baba is telling Merwan, one day as my father and this friend were walking down the street, from the opposite direction, two women fishmongers came along. Behind them were two other men. And as they passed my father and this friend had the urge to twitch, and he twitched his eye. So the men behind, the women fishmongers, thought that he was trying to be fresh. And so they just caught him by the shirt and started beating him up. My father, Baba said, my father had to intervene. But by the time my father intervened, that friend of his had quite a beating. Then my father explained that, look, it was not purposely, but it is his habit. And the friend also says, yes, you see, it is my, and then he also automatically did it. And that impressed these men, and they understood that it was a habit. So Baba said, you, Meherban, will also come into trouble one day. Then Baba became very serious and said, Meherban, from this minute, you will stop twitching your nose. Then he turned to me and said, if Meherban ever twitches his nose, you will send me a cable. I said, Baba, I will take his pocket money only and send the cable to you. No. Baba says, half your money, half his money. The matter was, the episode was closed. Baba says, now I want to relax, and he started his unique game of cards. Once, as they were playing the cards, Baba's face was like this. Meherban was sitting in the opposite direction, and Baba's face was like this. Suddenly, Baba turned and pointed to Meherban and said, you twitched your nose. Meherban said, yes, Baba. That was the last time that Meherban ever twitched his nose. It is a very trivial. And when Baba was in seclusion, sometimes Adi and I would sit in front of Meherban. Please, Meherban, twitch your nose, because correspondence was not allowed. But if he would twitch his nose, we can send a cable. But Meherban couldn't be budged. This is a trivial incident, but believe me, that time it wasn't trivial. We were almost on the verge of a nervous breakdown. But, as I said, it illustrates the kind of faith that Baba wants. He said, if you will have that 100% faith in me, the burden falls on my shoulder. The responsibility falls on my shoulder. Have it, and I'm responsible for you. This is the kind of faith that Baba wants. And this faith, if one has, it leads to conviction, to that unfathomable and strong conviction in his divinity. So he wants us to have this faith. And another thing that Baba said was, of course, as I said, the responsibility that he wants the parents to understand about their children. But going along life's byways, there are times when it is not weaknesses or lapses, but situations which are beyond our control which one has to pass through. It may be the physical death of a dearly beloved one. It may be the physical suffering of a dearly beloved one. Or it may be some calamities. But whatever it is, such suffering comes according to the divinely established law of karma. And Baba says, in fact, people should look upon physical suffering, physical and mental suffering, as gifts from God. They bring their own lessons of the futility of the passing and the intrinsic value of the eternal. When accepted with grace and understood in their very root cause, chasten the soul and introduce it to the abiding happiness of truth. And as disciples of Meher Baba, what does he want us to do when that suffering comes? Baba says, the only real surrender is that in which the poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual, amidst every kind of hardship, is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. When beloved Baba was at the Karachi airport, and I met him, then he took Merwan, our son, on his lap. But as I picked up our second son, Homi, Baba stopped me. At another time, when I was in Satara, Baba asked me about Merwan, but I noticed that somehow or the other, he didn't ask me about Homi, our second son. But when I was in Satara, out of the many questions that Baba asked me, he put me one question. Baba said, if I were to ask you to give me your son, would you willingly give it to me? I was so happy, interpreting this as Baba wanting him to stay with the Mandli, and spontaneously said, yes, Baba. Baba said, I'm repeating, if I were to ask you to give me your son, would you willingly give it to me? And my interpretation, as I told you, was, I thought Baba was asking him to stay with the resident Mandli, and I was very happy, and I said, yes, Baba. Yesterday, whilst we were discussing in the panel, there was a mention of Baba speaking in his own language and in our language. Here is a glaring instance of how we try to comprehend his words intellectually, even though they are spoken in our own language, addressed to a human being like myself. And here is a glaring instance of how words intellectually and fall short. Because we try to understand intellectually that which is beyond intellect and human comprehension. As Padma says, Baba, though a man and living in the human world, lives also and speaks also in the divine world, and is to be understood in the divine, not in the worldly sense. And that is why Baba tells us, Love me. Just love me. Do not try to comprehend me. Do not try to understand me. Love me. 16th April 1955. Our youngest son, Homi, fell out of our first floor window, and within half an hour, he died. After the doctor had told us he had expired, I was completely dazed. But for Baba, I would have lost my equilibrium. By the time we reached home, family and friends had already collected. When suddenly, within a few minutes, Adi came to me and said, "It is time for the jap, and I am going upstairs in the small Baba room. Do not allow anybody to touch Homi's body till I come." Now I must explain what this jap was. At that time in 1955, we had orders from Baba to carry on a 24-hour jap. Baba had given us, I forget now whether it was what name, his name or Aura Master or some name Baba had given us, and it was his wish that we should carry out round-the-clock jap. So we had divided the hours between the Baba disciples in Karachi, and round the clock we would carry it out in our own home, but the time was 4 to 4:30 for somebody, 4:30 to 5 for somebody, and 4:30 was Adi's time for jap, and 5 o'clock was my time for jap. So as we brought Homi home, it was time for the jap. And Adi told me that I am going upstairs in the small room for the jap, and he went. As 5 o'clock drew near, it was time for my jap, and I wanted to take over. I took over, but Minu, finding us not there, came up and then said that people are coming and I will take over, but I still insisted upon going and starting the jap. But when I came out of the room, I was no longer moving like an automate. Baba had taken over. Looking back, two things stand out. One was that I remembered somewhere reading that Baba had said that tears and wailing hinder the departed one. And though friends and family in good faith wanted me to cry, I could not cry, because it was Baba's wish, because it was Baba's teaching. But silently, I told Homi, go to Baba and tell him that I have come to you. And as the morning approached, the time for the funeral, there was such a beautiful smile on his face that I instinctively knew deep down that he had met Baba, his maker. And as always, the compassionate Father at Satara heard of our prayers from across the sea. When little Homi's photo was sent to him, he very lovingly took Homi in his hand. Then he asked for a torch. He focused it on Homi, looked at him for a few seconds, and handed the photo over to Eraj to be sent to both of us with the following instructions. Baba, with his hands, touched Homi. You too frame the enclosed photo and keep it near you. When you say that Homi has come to Baba, then you too must feel great relief. And with this knowledge, Baba wants you both to feel happy. Baba gave Adi and me, at a very young age, a lesson. A lesson in life that everything, father, mother, wife, husband, child, is a passing phase. And the only real thing, the only important thing is Baba. His is to give, his is to take. Ours is to accept with grace. But don't lose sight of the fact that he also gives us the strength, the courage, and fortitude. If one has 100% faith and leaves everything to him, he upholds you. Because of Baba, one had, one has, and one will always have the courage to face the so-called tragedies and calamities of the world. Without Baba, the same calamity, the same tragedy would make one an embittered, sour person. He is the rock. No matter how much you put weight on the rock, it will still support you. It will still uphold you. Baba is our rock. He is our haven. He is our refuge. And what does Baba say? At times you feel 100% miserable. Be sure that I know everything. When everything goes wrong, the mind becomes helpless and has to rely on the heart. These are the moments when you resign to my will and rely solely on my help. When you leave all to me, I dare not neglect you, and you get relief from your predicament. I am the ocean of love and compassion. And so that brings me to the end of my talk with you here. And again, to finish in Baba's words. Baba says, you have had enough words. I have had enough words. It is not through words that I give what I have to give. In the silence of your perfect surrender, my love, which is always silent, can flow to you, to be yours always to keep and to share with those who seek me. Jai Baba.